Great. Okay, perfect. So everyone is joining and we've got the streaming set up. So yeah, thanks everybody for being here today. We are, well, I am delighted, Escape the City, we are delighted to be joined by the wonderful Ben Keane, impact entrepreneur, and he's going to share all of his wisdom and knowledge around how AI is changing our world and how we can actually, how it can be used for good and what we can do to contribute towards that. So as people are starting to join, I'm just going to run through a couple of housekeeping bits, just to make sure everybody gets the most out of today's session. So to give you a rundown of the format, I'll do a short introduction to start with, and then I'll hand over to Ben, where he's going to talk you through all of his insights, exploring how AI will continue to reshape our world, and what you can do to understand it and how it can be used to tackle some of life's and the world's biggest problems. This will then be followed by 10 minutes or so at the end where I will direct any questions that you might have for Ben. So please do feel free to pop them in the chat, and we'll get to as many of those as we can. Anything that comes to you as you're listening to Ben. And also, as I said, we are streaming to LinkedIn and YouTube. So if you are joining us from there, welcome. Again, thank you for being here, and I will keep an eye on the questions and comments over there as well. So please do get involved. And finally, also, please let us know where you're joining from. Say hello in the chat. Let us know what brought you here today. It's always really great to hear who's come along. So yeah, I think that is everything from my side to cover. As I say, welcome everybody. Thanks for choosing to join in over your lunchtime today. Hopefully you got a cup of coffee, you're all ready to listen for the next 50 minutes or so. So first of all, introductions. I'm Hilary and I lead marketing and career change programs at Escape the City. So many of you may already be familiar with Escape the City, but for those of you who aren't, Escape is the UK's leading platform for finding purpose-driven jobs and also exploring career change. We've been around for 15 years, helping people find work that makes a real difference to the world, whether that's through our jobs board, where we feature roles at thousands of really amazing, progressive, mission-driven organisations, or through our courses and programmes that are designed to help people build careers that really do matter to them. So essentially a career change, purpose-driven hub for purpose-driven individuals. And I'm delighted to be joined by Ben Keane, the wonderful impact entrepreneur. So Ben has been a great friend of Escape City almost since the beginning, I believe. He spent over 20 years building community-driven startups and projects, from building a desert island eco-village to reinventing book clubs, to accelerating impact careers and also climate startups. More recently, Ben's delved into how tech and community tools can be used to make real positive change. And yeah, Ben's such an inspiring speaker and it's a pleasure to be joined by you today. So thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks, Hilary. Thanks everyone for being here. I'm just checking out. I mean, Escape's global. Look, Lorna's in Uganda. We've got Herman in Austria, Alexander in Switzerland, Tanya in North Carolina, and Chris. Look, Chris Cook has sent his AI. I don't know if Chris is here as well as his AI. Is this going to be the future of like I'm going to go to 10 workshops at the same time, and my AI is going to capture all the notes for me? I hope most of you are human, but Chris, fair play for sending your AA in as well. Oh, he is here. Look, so there's two of you. There's the human and the AI version of you. That's interesting.
This is a first though for Escape the City, I would say.
Okay, well, the first that's being been acknowledged anyway, said out loud. And Ifa, who's a company AI champion, I'm curious to hear more about that. So thanks for the lovely intro, Hilary, and for the invitation to be here today. And thanks for joining, everyone. I really want to hear from you as much as share some perspectives. So if you have specific questions about this topic, so what we're talking about here is, well, I got this image from 10 minutes ago from ChatGPT. I said, quick, I need an image to capture the essence of what this is about. I didn't describe, the ideal woman that I wanted in the image. It just did this automatically. It assumed it was this sort of professional woman walking towards the new kind of city, clean energy city. Although there's a lorry in a house, which is slightly, I don't know if that's the AI hallucinating. Anyway, it's fun. I was doing this with my kids last night where they were recreating some things in their imagination on ChatGPT. So it was like build a Lego version of London, but with a giant ball pond, or an aquarium in our back garden with sharks. And anyway, so playful, creative side of AI. Although I had to say to the kids last night, please, we can only do a few of these because every time you generate an image on something like ChatGPT, it uses the same amount of energy as charging a device like a smartphone overnight. There we go. The ups and downs of this great new technology, which is what we're going to talk about. So I want to do this sort of look at this in three parts, really. One is, where are we? What's our relationship with technology? Where has it changed our lives? And where are we at now with AI? Secondly, just look at some really, what I think are exciting examples of how AI is being used in meaningful ways to innovate and make the world better and solve problems, whilst acknowledging that some of the downsides and how we can try and mitigate those. And then really think about our own careers and what part we can play, and some reflections about in terms of that. And it sounds like some of you are doing that already. So here we go. This is big thinking, guys. It stretches me intellectually, which is why it's good to have AIs and escapees to help. The first thing I wanted to mention was this is Matt, who runs Entrepreneur First and has actually been he was in the Time 100 last week as one of the new leaders in AI in the world. He's from our community, entrepreneur community in London. And he is really bullish on this whole thing that talent, in the age of AI, talent, and investing in talent and our own careers as they change, is an incredible opportunity. I mean, biggest opportunity in the history of the species is a grand statement, right? So I want you to keep that in mind, like talent. And so us as humans, with the choice of what we do with our careers, or the motivation to change and do something meaningful, is an amazing opportunity, despite all the gloom and the overwhelm that we see every day in the world. So let's think briefly. Let's look backwards briefly before we kind of look forwards. What technology changed your life? I mean, these are three. This is where we start to show our age, but maybe drop in the chat, like, what was the tech, if you think back to as far as you can in your own life, what was the technology, whether it was hardware, software, whether it was a piece of health technology, or whether it was a game, or whether it was an invention of something like Hotmail, Tamagotchi, what was it that changed your life? And by change your life, I mean it took you off in a new direction, or it made you think differently, or a mobile phone in 1990. There we go. I'm guessing in 1990, that was early. What was that? Was that one of the big giant bricks, the Sega Master System? Really? Yes. Tamagotchi, Amanda, is that you admitting it? So Tamagotchi, this is in the middle of this image. That's the Tamagotchi. So it was like this little game on a key ring, and it was basically an animal that you nurtured and you had to feed by tapping the buttons. And if you didn't, and you basically you didn't feed it enough by playing with it, it would die. It was brutal. And I think actually what's coming back around in much more, we're seeing a lot more now, is that kind of Tamagotchi experience, which is, can you build a relationship with a little being on a machine? And so there you go. But Tamagotchis were around a while ago. The Piaggio scooter, let's have a hot shower, open top driving. Kurt, they all count. Open top driving, I love that. The sunroof, although I'm not sure that was tech. That was first smartphone, the iPod. Yes. ICQ, what's that stand for? And moving from internet connection that blocked the phone line to Wi-Fi. Nice. Google Maps, there we go. Big game changer for many things. So there you go. We've all been impacted by technology, often much more than we think. And technology's always been there, right? But it feels like we're living in a time where it is accelerating, and there's lots of examples of that. Really briefly, this is how it, I guess, had the biggest impact on me. So I was in my early 20s, thinking about starting a serious job or attempting to start a serious job, and I realized that actually all I wanted to do was adventure. But I was curious about how tech and adventure and travel were sort of coming together. This was in sort of early noughties, and I Googled this. So Google was the tool of the time, which may be redundant quite soon unless they lead the way with AI. And it was sort of islands for sale. By the way, talking about Google being redundant, apparently the kids, the Gen Zers are calling ChatGPT chat now, and they refer to it more than they refer to Google. So chat is in like, I'm looking for something, I'm trying to figure something out. They go to chat before they go to Google. So potentially OpenAI is overtaken there. I'm too young to know what ICQ is. I bet you I'm not. I think I'm just not knowledgeable enough. Oh, I see. I seek you, Shona. Well, there we go. Everyone, Shona educating us. Excellent. So I Googled islands for sale, and I was curious about the world of islands and adventure, and I wanted to go and live one and have a big adventure. And I didn't get onto the original Castaway. So I found this place, and this is Vorovoro Island in Fiji. So this is like a bit like the Castaway Island in the Hebrides. This is way out of the tourism areas of Fiji in the South Pacific, and you can probably see the little house on here. This is where the chief Tui Mali lived with his family when he was sort of away from his communities, which on the neighboring island. And he'd been told by his friend and gardener, Tavita, that one day the world was going to come to this island. It was a prophecy. He'd never been online. He didn't really know much about the tourism industry, but he was a wise chief and a kind man, and he was told the world is coming, they should prepare. So they basically prepared some of the land, like the world was going to come and visit and help his community. And then his nephew actually said, well, what might help speed up this prophecy is if we put an ad out. And so they put an ad on the local government land website. And after a bit of Googling and a few chats, I discovered this ad and started speaking with the chief's nephew and said, I've got this idea with a friend about bringing together a group of people online to crowdfund the building of an ecotourism project. And he said, yes, that's what we'd like to do. Come and meet my uncle. Anyway, cut a long story short, ended up on this island via Google, MSN Messenger, and Tui Mali became my business partner, and we recreated the scene from Lost. Remember that TV series? Not deliberately. This was the picture that was taken for National Geographic. And then we set up our community, and we had lots of challenges like cyclones and political coups and fires, all the usual dramas of tropical island life. But we built our village and we built our sustainable community, and we lived here for I lived there for 5 years on this remote island, and I ran the whole project in terms of the business and the tourism off a BlackBerry Curve. So that was the kind of first smartphone that, and I think I'm going to have arthritis in this thumb as a result of that little ball in the middle of the BlackBerry Curve. And you still, I mean, for the youngsters here, this was like the keypad had actually, a bit like your keyboard, had real physical keys on it. So yeah, when they got a bit of sand under them, it was a nightmare. But anyway, it worked. We ran this project. And so the tech for me was, Google, MSN, Hotmail, and climbing a hill on a tropical island in Fiji with a 3G network from Vodafone on a BlackBerry Curve. And I was able to play a part in building this new kind of community that thousands of people got involved, and we created a lot of local jobs and income. So that was exciting. And the impact of that was people like this little boy, Robbie, who emailed me earlier this year, and we met in 2008. And he was traveling the world with his mum, who sadly had terminal cancer, which is partly why she was taking her children on all these amazing bucket list experiences. And Robbie wrote to me the other day and said, by the way, Ben, that experience in 2008 on the island, mainly because of the Fijians, beautiful people we live with, I fell in love with nature and the importance of coral reefs and everything. And I've just graduated, and I'm now starting a career in full-time conservation. And I trace it back to that experience. And so for me, the impact of tech and making these changes, go on these adventures. It takes time, right? But that's the legacy of it. So there you go. That's my story about how technology changed my life and the others that joined in. And I've always been curious since about the part it plays. And it just feels right now we're going to a whole nother level. At the moment, I think it's just a little bit overwhelming for most of us when we really think about the scale of this new super tech. And you know, there's a lot of funny memes about this, but this idea that suddenly we've got thousands of years of knowledge that's been accumulated and dumped online, and Google search was doing a pretty good job at trying to organize that information, but now these AI search tools or AI chat tools are allowing us to get much smarter answers or creations from that information, and that's bonkers. And it has so many ramifications. And of course, it throws up a lot of fears at the same time. One is like, what about our jobs? You guys are all in a sort of progressive camp of being proactive and looking at the future, or seeing the fact that a lot of jobs are going to end and a lot of new kind of jobs are going to be created, which we'll talk about. But yeah, there's this fear that like, oh, we're handing over, we're going to be not be the most intelligent species on this little planet for much longer, which is wild to really think about. And I go cross-eyed if I think too much about it. Just tell me, like, how do you feel about this right now? How do you feel about AI? Give us whatever emoji you feel is most appropriate. And if you need more than one, oh, good news, interest rates been cut to 3.5%. Breaking news, in case anyone's dealing with debt. I don't know if that's you reacting to the breaking news about interest rates or AI. Let's focus on AI. So Amanda, yes. So that one, Neil, yeah. The upside down smiley, good. Both. Yes, excited. Good. I guess it also shown as like, yeah, sweating, crying. It's a tool. It's what you do with it. Can't replace human thought. Nice. That's more. There's not an emoji for that yet, is there, Helen? Great. So you can see the range that we're getting here. And I think it's your emotional reactions or how you're feeling right now as a human with feelings are pretty consistent. I'd say they're slightly more curious, hopeful, excited than the majority of people, but I'd expect that in this community. And actually, I think if we're honest, most of us might feel both ends of the spectrum of emotions about something like AI fairly close to each other, depending whether you've had coffee, having a positive conversation, or you're reading another scary headline or book or whatever it is. So yes, it's a mixture of feelings, and I think that's okay. And I think my mindset, the mindset I'm trying to have towards it all is sometimes I'm going to feel really excited and positive, like hopefully you will after this conversation. Other times I'm going to feel pretty overwhelmed and to the point of, you know, scared and fearful about the future and the world that that's running away, and that's okay. We just got to end up more on the positive side, otherwise we lose our motivation. So what is going on? Well, it's happening. There's lots of books. I'll recommend some more at the end. I love books. Obviously, books on AI are out of date as soon as they're published. But anyway, there's still some great ones out there. Machines will outsmart us. That's going to happen, and bad things at scale are going to happen. But the potential for good is huge. So this is the reality we're now in. It's not an if, it is happening. And of course, we hear a lot about this idea of exponentiality. What does that really mean for non-scientists, non-technologists like me? It basically means that because of Moore's law, you know, computing power doubling, that things will get twice as powerful every couple of years. And so if we apply this to a little thought experiment, put into the chat, how far would you go in 30 exponential steps distance wise? How far do you think you go? And don't use ChatGPT to give you this answer. Use your human mind. How far do you think you go? If anyone gets this right, I'll be amazed. But there we go. I know there's a lot of smart people outside the Milky Way. Sam, I'm imagining you saying that in your Irish accent there. So outside the Milky Way is quite a long way in 30 steps, Sam, but you're a tall guy, so maybe that's possible. Any other guesses? How far do you think we get? Do you think you get down the end of your road? or a bit further. So each step is a multiple of the previous step. So 2, 4, 8, 16, and so on. Any other guesses that have got a number attached to them? Come on. Before I reveal what the answer is. No? To the next guy. Shawl the moon around the world. Oh, yeah, big thinkers in here. Circumnavigate the world. And there's a little, just the most down to earth around the world. There we go. Some more down to earth answers, but only just. So yeah, you're all on the right tracks. It's massive. And actually, if you do the math, once you get up to 20 steps, it's not that far. I mean, it's quite far, but it's like, it's reasonable. And then between 20 and 30, it goes bonkers because you get to the millions quite quickly. So yes, 30 takes us to the moon and back, basically. And that, I think, for me at least, is a really helpful way of thinking about speed of scale. And of course, that's what we're dealing. So what is exponential going on in the world now? Human population has been out there for a world, although we're now seems to be slowing down. Another good talking point. Viruses. We learned a lot about this non-health experts during the pandemic and how we were trying to flatten that exponential curve. And of course, network effects, which we see all the time in social media networks, where one explodes and then it crashes again. And each time getting to that 100 million or billion users seems to happen faster and faster. And that's definitely the case with sort of AI tech. Now, we are also seeing exponential decline and tipping points. So in our natural world, and this is what's really frightening on the other side, in our natural world, the consequences of something like climate change means that, when certain things are triggered, all our systems are connected, we go into a tipping point, and this is really frightening. So I think it's important when we think about exponential growth, there's always the opposite, the yin and the yang, and that's that we need to keep that in mind. And of course, Marcus Aurelius might have said this a lot, but and he was right. Whatever we do is important, even in our own little lives. But I think what we're doing now with this technology and in the era of mass climate change and lots of other things that are going on in this world, genetics and so on, it feels like, and maybe every generation says this, but it does feel like the impact of our work and the decisions we make as societies and as leaders and as people with privilege in our careers to choose what we want to do is really, really significant. And that's, even if we strip away our egos, it's like it's huge. And so doing the right thing is so important because the legacies will be huge. So this can be scary and overwhelming if you're on your own. You're like, what? I'm just trying to get through the day, do my washing, whatever it is. But there's loads of good news here. So, searches for sustainable living and how we live more sustainably has gone up a huge amount in the last few years. Futera Communications, one of my favorite comms agencies in the world of sustainability. They do loads of great reports on these kind of things. And so people want to make all these positive changes in their lives. And of course, as we're seeing a little bit now with the new government in the UK, the costs, because they're trying to accelerate the transition to clean energy. I was at a big solar farm meeting in the local community here in Dorset this week. And there's a lot of opposition because people don't like change. But the reality is it is going to help bring down the price of bills, and clean, obviously, creates energy security and so on. But the good news is that it's going to get cheaper and cheaper to do all these things, and the tech is going in the right direction in terms of cost and the business models. And then you layer all this AI on top. So the power of AI is to process all this big data and complexity and help us figure out the best ways forward, whether it's business models or cleaning our energy systems up or education or whatever it is. So it's kind of the way I think about AI is it's like an accelerant for our missions, and when they're purposeful and they're good plans, it's things could move and change very, very quickly. So there we go. So let's look at some examples, because that's all kind of well and good as theory, but examples is what helps me anyway. So here we go. I've been lucky to travel a bit and spent some time in East Africa this year. So I'm picking up a couple from that region. And I think where you look at the regions of the world where we're seeing the impacts of something like climate much more strongly already, extreme weather events, then sometimes the innovation is more powerful because people are trying to deal with things that are already a reality and extremes. They're looking for new technologies and new ways of doing things. So in Kenya, for example, there is this weather app, which basically is providing more precise weather. I mean, if you're on the BBC weather app or the Met Office, it's not bad, but often it's not really accurate. I'm not sure how long until they get AI built into them. So herders, for example, pastoralists in northern Kenya around the Turkana region, where it can get really extreme weather from drought to fires and so on, they can get data to their phones quicker about local forecasts, and that just enables them. I mean, it can be the difference between life and death, but certainly a better quality of life for them and their cattle, which they're completely dependent on. And similarly in that region, these are my kids, and Hema and Mario are the two rhinos here, three beautiful 3-ton white rhinos in Kenya earlier this year, and they are thriving. Well, they were almost wiped out a decade ago from poachers, and the combination of conservation tourism, scaling that up, so it means a lot more funds for rangers to protect these conservancies and these rhinos and other wildlife from poachers, with eyes in the sky with drones and crunching all that data so they can track poachers and so on, just means that the cost now of protecting these rhinos has gone down a lot, and they can manage it. And the poachers are, there hasn't been, for example, in Lewa Conservancy in Kenya, a rhino killed in 6 years, which through poaching, which is a significant shift. So it's the combination of sort of human passion and commitment to a cause with a layer of AI on top. Now, of course, there's always a counter, which is like, well, poachers and others in the world have access to this technology as well, maybe not with as much organized, but organized crime and AI is the flip side to all of this, right? So, but this is a positive story at the moment. Similarly, this is around climate disasters in, I think Supremo is mainly in South America, so in Brazil. So it just allows, for example, where rivers are going to more likely flood, exact areas at how much time with what levels of precipitation and all the variables that come with that level of data. A tool like this is enabling people, leaders in society and communities and government, to prepare and respond much better, so that although climate disasters will increase, our preparedness for them will also increase. Which should mitigate the fatalities and so on. Yes, BBC Click has been really good on this stuff. Exactly. And so I think this is a nice example of kind of the scale of difference that an AI brings to a particular bit of work. So one that's tracking changes in icebergs, for example, which we all know that melting ice caps are a big signifier of where we're going with climate change. And it's 10,000 times faster than a human can do it, which is unbelievable, right? And that's just the other big lesson about AI is that where we're at today is the worst version or the least powerful version of the tool that we're ever going to have. It's only, even if mass regulation comes in, and even if the technology just suddenly doesn't get any better, this is the worst version. So it's only going to get more powerful. And these enable us to make a lot more decisions. If any of you are interested in the kind of new space race, I'm reading a great book on this at the moment. And actually a lot of the technology, although it's a carbon intensive industry space, you should think we should focus on life here. It's actually a lot of the innovation that comes through from the new world of space and private space companies is being used to tackle challenges like climate here on Earth, and satellites especially. Lots of risks and downsides too, right? Privacy and the rest of it, terrorism, but in terms of managing something like climate. This is a really good, I'm not going to play it now because it'll take a few minutes, but essentially this, so you imagine a city like Rio, where you've got a lot of all those favelas around the mountains, and you've got a lot of deforestation, and then that creates erosion and then flooding in the cities. And in places like, I used to live in Freetown in Sierra Leone, and it was awful. Like, it built up huge parts of the city and cut down all the trees, and then it would flood and destroy these communities. And so we need to reforest and replant a lot of these regions, and it's really hard to, because they're on the side of very steep hills. Anyway, these drones are doing it at 10,000 times the speed and efficiency and specific seeds and so on. So it's amazing what can happen. It's not all drones, but they are helping. My friend Mandeep has started this company called Bendy, which is Ben and Mandeep. That's why it's called Bendy. And they've built a really impressive, it's like one of those, if you're looking at startups, it's like one of those really impressive tools, which basically works not on the front end, on the sort of the sexy end of an industry, but in the supply chain. So they're helping. One of the big challenges in fashion, for example, is managing transparency of both human exploitation and environmental negative impacts. And so all these fashion houses and companies that are claiming to be sustainable, they can't, because it's very hard in a complex global supply chain to prove that. And Bendy is helping do this by building AI into a lot of that monitoring. So if you're fascinated by that, dive into Bendy, and there's lots of companies like that. But I think very smart business to build, because you're working in the supply chain of a huge industry that's going through massive change. This one I will play briefly because it's fascinating, and this is a British startup, so I'll play a minute of this. Can you hear it okay, Hilary?
No, Ben, sorry, can you turn it up?
To recover more resources and maximize profits, you need to know more about the material you're processing. Grey Parrot gives you that visibility by tracking the material, mass balance, food grade, financial value, and carbon footprint of every waste product in real time. The Grey Parrot Analyzer uses artificial...
Anyway, so you can see basically this is Grey Parrot's a intelligent parrot species in the Amazon, and this startup here in the UK, you can see the box here. It just this bit of hardware sits on top of the recycling belts, and we all know the nightmare that recycling is. We all put this effort in, and then we hear about it being shipped overseas and incinerated. So this is really sorting it out, and all the different plastics, because there's so many different types. Anyway, it's the combination of the hardware and the AI that's really powerful in this instance, and they are flying. So they're one to watch. And the whole waste industry and AI, there's a lot of opportunities and businesses. Now, the obvious area where AI is making a difference is healthcare. You all have heard, this is a weird picture, but anyway, you all have heard of different examples. The book that I read on this that was really, I found fascinating, is called Outlive, and it's about extending life, and it's all about thinking about quality health rather than length of life in older age. And a lot of it is around obviously understanding our own genetics and what, out of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, which one is most likely to come for us, rather than reacting when it does come for us with whatever medicine there is, and preparing our lives for it, because we're all slightly different. And that's where AI is going to really help in healthcare, prepare us sort of in advance. So it is really fascinating, and there's a lot going on in that space. And then similarly around people with different abilities, so connecting people up who, this particular Be My Eyes connects people with blind and low vision users who want sighted assistance with volunteers and companies anywhere in the world. And so it's not the technology is the solution, but the connecting of people in smarter ways. It's the solution here. There's a member, a friend in Rebel Book Club, who said that, a lot of people, oh, AI is really scary. And he's like, it's changing my life. As a partially sighted person, I've now got access to all these tools which are enabling me to learn differently, try new things, and AI has really helped with that. So yeah, it's fascinating what's happening already. This was a really cool campaign called, which if you're on Spotify, you can follow, which was, I'm really interested in creativity and communications around impact. And this was a campaign that a few other artists have come together around called Sounds Right. And basically it works out within music, within tracks, where nature, sounds of nature, waterfalls, animal noises, raindrops have been used. So literally nature's been, nature's IP, I guess, musical IP. And it said, right, that nature needs to be paid for this. We're using her sound effects. And so obviously that is not scientific, but this AI has gone, right, here are all the tracks. And then the artist is going, well, okay, 3% of my music uses rain. I don't know which artist would have the most sound, sort of nature sounds ever. someone like Enya. Anyway, and then they're investing, gathering those funds and investing it back into conservation work. So really cool creative idea. I think probably more powerful in terms of engaging an audience around, you know, what does nature own? And of course, all this idea of externalities that we've had in our economic system for so long. You know, we cut down a forest, we're not really paying nature for that. We're only paying the person who supposedly owns the forest. So I think any kind of innovation in this area, and I think there's a lot of opportunities here because AI enables us to measure and track things in different ways compared to before. Something to do with our own startups, so Raise. This is very pink. Raise, we're an Aussie startup, and we're trying to use AI in our platform, which helps climate founders and investors. We're just using AI to speed up the pain or reduce the pain of fundraising in this space. So for example, you can just take your fundraising deck, you put it on Raise, and it populates the fundraising page, starts reaching out to investors. It's a huge job, fundraising, for those of you who've been involved will know. So we're trying to remove some of that stress and make those matches better, which in the dating world is kind of fascinating, right? Will AIs be out there representing you to various humans in the world? But anyway, we're doing it in the climate and investing space. So as you can see, and I've only handpicked a few things that I'm particularly interested in, it's already doing lots of things. It's not improving my spelling, that's for sure. It hasn't fixed that. But it's really important to acknowledge at this point the major dangers and downsides, and I'm not going to go into these in detail because that's not the point, but we need to be aware of them in all the decision making and learning we're doing around AI. There's a massive dirty energy use here, and of course the AI and the tech will help us figure this out, but already Google has said we can no longer claim carbon neutrality because the volume of compute we're now using with AI as part of our ecosystem it's just gone off the scale. And if you think about compute power, I think 95% of compute power is in the US and China. We're really reliant, it's quite risky, we're really reliant on those two superpowers and how they manage that compute power sustainably. And so that's a massive challenge, and we have to figure that out. And the problem is it's not going to go away. We're all going to, more and more AI is going to be used every day. But it's huge. So we don't want to be in this situation where we've worked really hard to switch to renewables only to realize we need to do 100 times more. We need 100 times more energy. Runaway bad intelligence, that's the scary part, you know, where as someone says the AI turn the world into paper clips, and it does. And that's the end of humanity. All those kind of philosophical plans. But yeah, AI, especially in bad actors' hands, is going to be frightening prospect. So I think those of you that are interested in ethics and safety and all those kind of regulation, there's a whole industry of opportunities here. And the UK is actually being quite forward is leading on this stuff. So it's a good opportunity if you're in the UK, or wherever you are in the world. Tech inequality, yes, this is important. I've mentioned compute power in the US and China, which obviously amongst the wealthy and some perhaps leaders that you might not be such fans of. So how can we increase? You think on the surface this enables more people, especially in things like education around the world, to get access and have opportunities. But at the same time, there's a large tech inequality in the world, and will AI increase it? And then finally, in terms of challenges, and I think this is important from a impact career point of view, we often think about narrow solutions. Oh, I'm going to tackle this particular problem, or I'm going to recycle this in my home, turn the lights off, but they don't really, you know, everything's integrated and we need systems change. So when you're thinking about a career, which part can you really impact the system the most using AI? I think that's an important question to ask. So like really quickly, and I'm almost done and we can have a chat. Here are some sort of career opportunities in terms of areas that it's quite a lot going on, and it's not all of them. So a lot of these are sort of scientist type roles, but there's lots of non-scientific opportunities with them. They all need ops people, they all need marketeers, they all need good leaders. Clearly the data scientist, climate data scientists, you've seen some of those examples, there's only going to be a lot more demand in there. And then similarly, energy efficiency analysts. I've just seen a company raise called TEM this morning, UK company, raised 10 million from Atomic, and TEM is all about helping corporations get the best clean energy deals. So it's like a AI market tracker for clean energy. These startups are taking off really fast because they're just using AI to analyze a load of data, in this case, clean energy, and they're going, right, here you go, this is the best package for you. So lots of opportunities there. Wildlife conservation, one of my favorite, I think, protecting nature, increasing, rewilding, we hear a lot about. There's lots of good data sets around this. And I love the sort of human and nature-based connection with this. So lots of opportunities there. Waste management, recycling, maybe not so sexy, but potentially really lucrative careers, because it's a bit like that world of, when Airbnb and all those companies were like, oh, we'll just think of assets that aren't being used. It's kind of the same with waste, food waste, plastics, whatever it is. These are all potential big business opportunities, and AI can help us make them even bigger. My machine's just crashed on me here a little bit for the moment. So disaster relief, I think, is a really important one because of climate adaptation, but war and everything else. And how can AI help us respond to disasters better? So much good innovation. A lot of it is about information and then getting resources there. AI can help. Healthcare, loads and loads and loads in every aspect of the healthcare space. So if you're interested in the future of healthcare, do dive into it. And the area that I think I'm personally most interested in is this sort of education and communication side of how do we help, like, you're curious people, you're here, you're in the you're in the minority, but how do you be the human in the kind of AI loop? Because this is crucial in terms of the ethics and the impact we can have with it, and making sure we go more in a positive direction than the negative. And what can you do? I mean, one of the things I'm trying to do is build community in this space, because I think education, we could always say, all right, well, you'll go, you use the AI to educate yourself, but actually we need this communities like Escape and many others to help us share and build together and be accountable and help each other. So yeah, big opportunity here, and like the creative side of things, which is the fun. So a couple of reflections, and then by all means fire questions across. So in terms of, I think I remember 15 years ago, Hilary talking at Escape about with the community back then about the responsibility, this two sort of dual responsibility and opportunity we have. So those of us who are choosing and figuring out a career, new career opportunities, it's both really exciting opportunity, although it feels hard, but it's also our responsibility because of the privilege that comes with this position in the world. And so we should take it seriously, both for ourselves and the world. And this is even more true, I think, with this new layer of AI, which wasn't there 15 years ago. And it's inevitable. We've talked about this. So how do we prioritize impact solutions? So our chances of good are much, much higher. So it's happening. How do we lean into this? Human connection. How do we invite people to join in with this, partners to join in, so that we can all engage in a meaningful way? And I'm trying out something new. So I'm building a little community here, which I'm calling Superfly, which is basically bringing people together like us, who are trying to learn more about this space. So if you want to join in with that, I'm going to start with a couple of newsletters and then try and have some meetups. So Superfly with an I at Beehive. Come and join in. And I think one of the most exciting things for me is it can potentially kill a lot of the bullshit in the world, AI. It will create some as well, but it can kill off it could kill off some stuff like greenwash, because of the, it can bring more of the data into make it a reality, and say, as we build more trust in those, like supply chains in the fashion industry and so on, and potentially can make governments more accountable. I appreciate and acknowledge that we also live in this era of fake news, and AIs can play a big part in that as well. And images and videos are going to be a huge, huge problem in verification. But it will also empower lots of us, activist organizations, communities, businesses, to say, hold on, you can't just go on TV and say that. You know, you're going to be fact checked by this AI in real time, as maybe you are doing to me. So revisiting finally this point, which we started with, which is talent matters. You, all of you really matter in this big story that we're going through. So make the most of it, lean into it, be curious, build better solutions. Octopus Energy in the UK, one of the great sort of, I think, startup stories of the last 20 years. Motivated, founder of Octopus, Greg, was motivated by energy poverty because he'd grown up with it. And he was like, why are we having to make a choice as a family between heating and eating, which has come back round in recent years because of the Ukraine war driving up gas prices and not being energy secure in the UK. And so he said, I don't want that again. And he learned about it as a teenager and at university, and then he created Octopus Energy. And the motivation was, I want energy to be affordable to everyone. Oh, by the way, clean energies can mean it's cheaper in the long run and it's better for the planet. So these are, and AI is accelerating that for him and Octopus, and they're building an amazing company. So yeah, let's build better solutions using these tools, and always be curious, you know. Although it gets a bit weird when you start asking AI about how to do all this stuff, because it kind of spits back, it hallucinates, as we know. So be good, learn how to do inputs well. And I know some great AI teachers, which I can share with you if you want to learn from them about how to do that effectively. Books, oh my God, I can recommend lots of books. It depends what you're after. Screenshot this. All of these, by the way, are audiobooks on Spotify, on Audible now. So you know, if you can't read, you can always listen, or you just go to the podcast version of the author's interview or the TED Talk. So there's always a format that you can digest this. Just briefly on these, I think I mentioned Scary Smart, Mo Gawdat's amazing, very accessible, easy way to sort of get into this topic. The Coming Wave, Mustafa Suleiman, is a really good overview of this, you know, positive view of where we're going. AI Need You, Verity Harding, is quite what I enjoyed about that book, because it looks back historically at things like the space race, and like how that might it play out now we've got AI in our world. Co-Intelligence, I found the most helpful book on thinking about our relationship with AI as a co-pilot, and some of the ethics of it. And then these other books are more about the world itself, less to do with AI. My favorite probably is Not the End of the World, which is all about big data and some of the positive stories that we've not heard of. Anyway, lots there, but always be curious. So there we go. I can see there's lots of messages coming here. Okay, cool. Hilary, there's a quick recap. I hope I didn't go on too long. I did about 10 minutes longer than I should have done. Do we have any sort of reflections or quick questions that I can help people with?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Ben. Got so much to take in. And just for everyone who's joined today, just so you know, we will share the recording, which obviously will have Ben's slides on as well, for anyone that's signed up. But yeah, a couple of questions. What advice would you give to someone looking to pivot their career towards, I guess, the AI for good space?
Yeah, so I think, you know, the AI will tell you what to do here. It will just say, oh, here are the kind of like those 10 different areas, and that's only a few of them. Doing what you're doing today, being, you know, turning up to things like this, taking away a couple of small actions or connections from it, or things to follow up on. And those small steps that I know you talk about escape so much, because they always build into bigger ones. I think it's the thing that's always helped me, and I've seen it help others, is following people who are working in this space already. So some of those examples I mentioned, you know, like find out who are the founders behind those, or the investors in them, or the companies that are doing these things. Some of them are on this call right now, right? Follow them. LinkedIn is a great place for this, and you'll see in there what they share and what they talk about, like the kind of ways in, and then actually the algorithm or something like LinkedIn will start sharing opportunities there. So that's part one. Part two is what you do in your escape accelerators, right, Hilary, which is the proactive thing of starting to see, not reach out because you want, hey, I'm here, I'm interested in what you're doing, can you give me a job? But how can I add value? How can I help this organization, this startup, this whatever it is, project with its work right now? If I was there working there today, this Thursday lunchtime, what would I do to help? What's the skill that I've got to? Now, you might not have the technical skill, but you might have a contact. And sometimes it's just energy and putting into that. So see, what could I do to help? But try and, follow your curiosities, because this is huge. Which areas are you really interested in? Which areas do you think about when you're in the shower, when you're on a run, when you're away from your desk? What's still buzzing around your mind? Oh, I'm really curious about how to help, dyslexic kids at school use AI in better ways. So, explore it, follow, read, listen, and crucially start to do some reaching out and engaging as well. I think a very practical thing to do, come back to LinkedIn, is commenting on people's posts in a helpful way or in a supportive way. It gets a much deeper interaction going on that particular platform. This isn't a LinkedIn class, but that's what I would do.
Great advice. And this actually, Dell's question links a little bit on from that. Where can I begin to start learning about AI from a non-tech point of view? A career coach trying to use it now and again, but to inform their clients.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the answer, which is turning up to these, using the AIs itself, asking it to break it down in a way that, I mean, with inputs on AI, it's always about saying, right, imagine you are a school teacher and you're trying to explain quantum physics to 6-year-olds. And you're doing it in a way that there's like lots of different ways of formats, metaphor, visual, and so on. You can create a whole class workshop. Oh, turn it into a pub quiz, turn it into a game. This is what I do for things like Rebel Book Club workshops. And the ideas that it throws back at me are not perfect, but it helps me then go, oh, there's something in that. I'm going to just iterate on it and use that. So that, using the AI tools themselves. The other thing is there's someone called Jodie Cook, who's got something called Coach Vox. I'll just put her name in there. You can look her up on LinkedIn. Coach Vox, which is basically a whole platform to help coaches and mainly coaches, individual creators use AI in ways to really teach and learn. And she's got some good free workshops that you can get involved with. And then it's a platform to help scale that as a business. But she's great. The other person I'm going to mention here is Shen Solon, and she's doing a really good job. Follow her. And then in terms of teaching people how to practically, input AI, she's got something called Launch Lemonade. And then the third person I'm going to mention, and I'll stop, is Henry Cortino Mason, who's a futurist, but he's really good on communicating and playing with tools that you might want to get involved with.
Brilliant. Thanks for those, Ben. Just a question from Alistair on LinkedIn. AI is already replacing some jobs. What types of roles would you like to see emerge? I know you mentioned some already, but anything you particularly would like to see?
Yeah, so I think that conceptually it's the human in the loop is the title. Maybe that's a good title of a future book or something on this topic, but it's like the human jobs that are left. So AI will go badly wrong for humanity if we don't stay heavily involved, if we don't remain as humans in the loop, in the technical loop of this constant processing of. Now, we can't compete now with this AIs on the data processing, but what we can do is direct and guide and point in the right directions and say, no, not that way, this way, and actually change your inputs to this. And the AI can change in whatever direction really fast. So in terms of roles, I think that's really important, is wherever AI is being used, which is now pretty much everywhere, how can we be human? And so I think ethics is massive, and regulation or process, sort of, if you look back, and this is why Verity Harding's book's quite good, because it helps us think about historical examples. But if you think about where we've really managed to solve things as a global society and progress has happened, which are many great examples of it, it's because we've been humans in the global system and gone, actually, as leaders, we need to change this, and we're going to campaign, or we're going to create a movement, or we're going to be a great political or business leader. So I think it's doing that, but with AI. So in the UK, there is the AI Safety Institute. I don't know if I got the title quite right, but they met, last year. Where did Alan Turing do his tests? Where the Enigma machine. Bletchley Park. Am I saying, if I got that right? Anyway, they met there symbolically because that was a kind of early AI machine in the UK. And there's lots going on in that space. So I think, you know, responsibility, how do we manage this? How do we roll it out? So that's on one side. The other is creativity. So how do we come up with different ways of using this amazing technology? So you take a real big challenging problem and you say, how could we use our human creativity to challenge the AI, or to get the AI to, and really think about this as co-pilot. It's like a free or very cheap, intelligent partner, business partner, career partner, colleague. I mean, we're all going to have AI career coaches in the coming years, which hopefully Escape will sell for a fortune, and you can all be partners in it. Science fiction, in fact, yeah, I don't know who just mentioned that, is really good if you want to think creatively. Science fiction is a really good way of thinking about is coming into its own again. All right.
Question from Shona: what if some of our current assumptions are wrong and the AI is programmed wrongly?
Yeah, what if? Yeah, I mean, there's so many potential things that you can easily get frightened about here. So all we can do is, one, accept the realities that we're now faced with. And, you know, like any good sports coach will say, control the controllables. What can I do in my life that's really can impact in a positive way and something that makes me feel good? So yes, there could be many assumptions that, you know, like any of us who've worked on startups or projects, everything's assumption based and you're trying to verify them. And with that startup mindset, it's like, well, what's the riskiest assumption that you would like to explore? And then how could you prove that one way or another? And the good thing is you can connect with lots of people who are already interested in this stuff, whatever the area is, whether it's conservation or energy or healthcare or education. There's people out there exploring this stuff, so it's connecting with them. But yeah, I feel the challenge of that question, Shona. There's so many unknown unknowns, as I think Donald Rumsfeld once said.
Okay, great. So I would say, just for one more question, but obviously if anybody has got any questions that Ben hasn't got to, obviously
or shares, if anyone wants to share.
Yeah.
I see a couple of useful shares here of like, oh, here's something I'm part of. I think it's really useful or interesting. I think helping, the other thing, which is in terms of careers and coaching and impact with AI, I think helping people, kind of like the Escape role, but then we need lots of people working on this, helping people navigate this transition is going to be a big job. So the fallout from jobs and industries, the mental health impact of that, the psychological impact of that, the economic impact of that, retraining, reskilling, all this kind of stuff. And you can see the investment going on in higher education, and governments are trying to change this. But yeah, business models, that whole kind of career transition, you know, what Escape's been leading the way on for 15 years and some other great organizations, I think that's a massive opportunity. So we might, in our little bubble here, we might go, oh, there's enough career coaches and life coaches and that. I was like, no, I think the whole helping other humans on their journeys in whatever it is, whatever little niche it is, and how we use AI to do that, but also help them navigate that. I think there's less likely to be, right now, there's a lot of people teaching AI, like how to use these technologies and tools, but in time it's going to be, you know, it'll be second nature to us. We don't have people teaching us how to use Google now, although there's always business opportunities. You know, you see them if you follow something like a newsletter called Starter Story, and he shares every day an example of a £1 million business in a complete niche, and it's often things like training software businesses that train people how to use, a little training business that teaches people how to use a bit of software that, you know, Azure by Microsoft, because it's a corporate software, and these softwares have explainers, but someone's being more human in how they teach and train someone, and people are paying $50 for that. So there will always be opportunities there, but I think it's more likely to be on the kind of journey, the coaching journey side of things.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
great.
so many good author book recommendations and reading. Yeah, keep learning.
Yeah, and
And
I guess that, oh, sorry, go Ben.
no, I know. I was going to say, just from again from a mindset point of view, because I know this is a lot, and I feel it strongly. That is just to let go of a lot of it as well, because it's too much. I mean, you can be intellectually curious about the philosophy and all the different journeys that we could go on as a species, and that's interesting. But it's also very hard to then ground yourself and go, what the hell does that mean for my career? And being focused and being like, get shit done, feet on the ground type stuff. And we need to do both. That's why I love the head in the clouds, feet on the ground mantra that I picked up in my escape days, because it really is that heady mix of let's dream, let's explore, let's ask big questions, but every day let's do something practical. So the practical thing now is, follow those people, reach out to a couple of things, write a couple of simple goals. And the heady stuff is to go read that book, watch that film, explore that blog, whatever it is. So that's my closing thought.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a brilliant kind of brilliant comment to leave it on. So thanks, Ben. And yeah, just huge thank you for being here and for sharing so much to kind of digest and so many resources to take away for everybody. So yeah, it's been a really, really great lunchtime webinar from you, and thank you very much everybody for being here and taking the time and to be open and to be learning, and that's what we all need to continue doing. So it's great to be able to bring sessions like this to all of you. So
thanks, Hilary. And let me just add really quickly, I'm not an expert. I'm curious and I'm trying to learn, and that's the same for all of us. I mean, there's people here with a lot more expertise than me on this topic, so we're all in this kind of space together. So those of us that lean into it and learn are likely to get more from this moment. So yeah, reach out to me. LinkedIn's great, and if I can help or connect projects up, I'd love to. Thanks, Hilary. Thanks, everyone.